Hello again. A number of the athletes that I work with, or cyclists that I work with, are coming up to the main bikepacking events. As you probably know, I coach quite a lot of bikepackers. And so I thought it'd be useful perhaps for you to talk about things that can be useful to do in preparation for the event. I mean, some of the things you've probably done already, and some of the things you probably know about, particularly if you've watched previous videos. If you've got it all covered, then great, and you don't need to watch the rest of the video. Anyway, so firstly, I've got 7 points here. Firstly is look at the race information. Some of the race information has only just been released, like coaching somebody who's going to do the Pan-Celtic race in Ireland. It starts in Wales, goes to Ireland, then comes back to Wales, and she's just got the route details, and as a consequence, once you get this route information, then you can start looking through it. Similarly, I'm coaching somebody who's doing the 20k in Italy, which is an off-road event, and the 20k stands for 20,000 metres of climbing, and as it's turned out, looking at the route, it's about 28,000 metres of climbing, so quite a big event to manage in a week. He's just got the route information. It's a basic route, and then just a couple of weeks before the event he'll get some more details, and then he can plan his route in a bit more detail. But starting to have all this information in mind and then using it to plan what you expect to do is going to be a really effective way to go, because the more you can do, the more upfront work you can do, the more effective your ride's going to be, and the more likely you are to be successful. So you've got the course information, which might be a route, a GPS file that you can load up to your computer and follow, or for something like the Transcontinental race, it's a series of checkpoints and you've got to plan your own route. And if you're doing the Transcontinental, your route planning is probably well underway, or at least I hope it is, and you're in the refining stage. But if not, well, you've still got quite a bit of time to get it sorted. In addition to that, you get rule books and guidelines. For example, the Atlas Mountain Race, they provide resupply points to let you know where the best resupply points are, so that you can then work out the distances that you might have to ride without resupply. So that's the first thing. Check the route, check the rule book, check any information that you can get, look at websites, look at Facebook and all these things. Gather as much information as you can. Once you've got all that, then make a plan, start to refine your plan. I mean, when you first start training for the event, it's best to have some sort of plan so that you know what you're training towards. But once you get more and more information, then you can refine your plan more and more, and understand more and more about what you've got in store for you. It's better to have this plan based on duration, so have a daily duration that you expect to ride for, or expect to be active for. So that might be 12 hours, 16 hours, 20 hours, or whatever for a shorter event. And then you've got the rest of the time that you might have off. So if, say, you're riding or moving time was 16 hours a day, you've then got 8 hours of a break. Now that's quite a long break, but you obviously won't be able to sleep for 8 hours. You've got to eat, you've got to put your tent up or find somewhere to sleep or whatever that might be, and then you've got to sleep. So in an 8-hour break you might get 6 hours sleep if you're fairly efficient. Using duration is much better than using distance, because if something goes wrong, your plan can be totally thrown out. Say you are unable to make the distance that you've got planned on one particular day, then you'd have to rethink the whole plan. Whereas if you ride into a certain duration, that day's just gone wrong, but you can then pick it up straight away on the next day, and you've got your daily plan and your daily schedule, and you can work to that. So if you've been watching previous of my videos, you'll know that I'm quite keen on having a practice event. So once you've got your ride schedule, then do a practice event. I mean, that can be an actual event, or it can be just one that you've set up yourself. You don't have to ride for the total durations of your daily schedule, although it can be quite useful to do so to get a feel for how your body behaves. Practicing the important parts, like the amount of time you've got to sleep, and packing and unpacking and that sort of thing, along with a significant amount of riding, is going to teach you a lot about what to expect during your main event. I mean, making some mistakes in training is much better than making them in the event. Once you've done your practice ride or your test event or whatever it is, then revise your plan, learn from it, make some changes, think about whether your equipment's the right equipment for you, whether you've got too much equipment, too little equipment. Once you've got this plan, then go through it in your head, you could go through it on the map and say, this is what I'm going to do on roughly this day, this is what I expect to happen. And then do, I think, what I call what if. So you develop this with Karen Dark, a first person that I coached, a hand cyclist, and we went through years and years of working towards Paralympic hand cycle events. And we always used to do these what ifs. What if such and such happens? Well, for her, what if was, what if somebody catches me in the time trial event? What am I going to do? I need to be mentally strong, because that's not the end of the race. It might be the end of a chance of a gold medal, but some of these races have quite big gaps, so she might still get a silver medal. But in terms of a bikepacking event, what if I have a puncture? What if I have a gear cable snap? That's something that's happened to somebody that I coached. In fact, I think it's happened to the same person twice. So now they carry gear cables, and they're quite expert at changing gear cables. If you've got electric gears, then do you need batteries? Are your batteries charged? How long do they last? Is all that covered? How are you going to charge your equipment, your navigational equipment? How does that last? What if something breaks? What if you fall off and break something? How are you going to deal with that? So be realistic, but the more upfront work that you can do, the better. So the more of these what ifs you cover, write a big list of what if this happens, what if that happens, what am I going to do next to it? And then you've got it all covered. And then the ultimate catch-all is accept that things are going to go wrong and move forward with a plan, which is from Steve Peters' Chimp Paradox, and now his new book, Path Through the Jungle. The important thing is to accept that things do go wrong, and you might not have even covered it in your what ifs. You might not have a plan for it. So it's normal in these situations to panic. So I accept that things go wrong, it's normal to panic, and then let yourself panic for a bit, because it's a long race. These races are quite long, so it doesn't matter if you waste 10 or 15 minutes panicking or stressing or thinking about things. And then once you've calmed down a bit, once you've boxed your chimp, if you want to continue the chimp paradox theory, then you can be a bit more rational about it. You can think about what's a good plan, how am I going to deal with this situation. And then once you've got a plan, you can move forward in a systematic way, which is going to be much more effective. So that's a catch-all thing. Accept it's normal for things to go wrong. Accept it's normal to panic. It's normal to have emotional problems during these long races. A lot of the people I work with just sit down and have a good cry, and that helps them sort things out. So knowing what you can do to deal with emotional situations is really effective. Another person that I coached, she just was quite socially, quite a social person, and she just, went and found somebody to chat to for a bit, and that sorted her out and restabilised things, and then she could get going. So learn about yourself and what works for you, and don't worry whether that's something that you think should work for you or not. If it works, it works, and use it. And the next thing is taper. Make sure you're well recovered. In these long events, it doesn't really, you're not looking for you're not trying to produce explosive power. You're not going to have to sprint against somebody. You just need to be able to ride day in, day out. And so the thing is that you need to be fresh for that. You don't want to be going into the race tired. You don't have to be at a sort of super exact peak, because you retain a lot of endurance fitness over time. So you just have to be rested enough. So the important thing in your taper is to have a long enough taper, long enough time without a lot of riding and without a lot of training. And you can use that time to prepare yourself mentally and to prepare all your equipment. So it's actually quite a bonus. I usually like to have at least 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks actually, if somebody's been doing a lot of hard training up to quite close to the event. So if they've done a really big block of volume or a big block of intensity, then it might take them 3 weeks to come down from that. But typically it's 2 weeks. Usually I build up the 2 weeks before. So the weekend, say it starts at the weekend that's 2 weeks before the start of the event. That week comes into quite a big weekend. The last maybe one long ride, and then it's 2 weeks really easy. Often you've got to travel to the event, and that's the taper. So the taper can be very simple. It's just do less. In theory, you're supposed to maintain a similar sort of intensity, but that's not critically important for a bikepacking event. So taper, important. Make sure you're well rested. Don't worry about losing fitness. You won't lose any fitness in 2 weeks. You won't lose any relevant fitness in 2 weeks. And if you're unsure, well, ask a coach, ask somebody who knows, ask somebody with some experience. Make a comment if you've got some questions. I'll answer comments. I always answer comments. I read all the comments. You can find me on my website, endurancebikenrun.com, and send an email and I'll answer that. Or if you want some help, if you've got plenty of time to train for your next event, then get in touch and I'd love to coach you. Okay, that's all. Have a great ride and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.